I can't be teaching people about Amazon if I'm not selling on it myself. We actually did $1,000 of profit in the first month. We sold out pretty fast of these products. When I launch now, I aim to lose money. You almost always lose money in your first month. You have to, like, you got to get your initial traction out there, unless you're like an established seller and you got a lot of brand following.
We can start with like a little bit of background about yourself and how did you come up with the idea that we're going to be talking about?
Yeah, so I've been selling online for online companies since 1998, 1999. I was running $1 million Fast and Furious type company where did car parts. So I've been doing e-commerce off and on for years. But I first started getting into Amazon. One of the companies I worked for was doing a lot of phone cases in the mid 2010s, and then they were like, "Hey, let's start on Amazon." I didn't know anything about Amazon at the time, but I helped them with warehousing and helped them ship stuff to Amazon FBA, which I didn't even know what it was. And so that's how I kind of like started to understand about how things work on Amazon. And then when I split from that company, I was like, I want to find out more about it because I didn't learn anything about Amazon, even though I was working for a company that was selling on Amazon. And that's when I really got into it. I was like, wow, there's a lot of opportunity here. So I just like really dove in to becoming an expert. And at first, I was actually a consultant for Amazon sellers before I even
Mm.
sold my first product. And then I started working at Helium 10, which is a software company for Amazon sellers. And then I was like, well, I can't be teaching people about Amazon if I'm not selling on it myself. So I launched like about 4 or 5 brands in the course of a year. But in my total career, I've launched over 500 products, mostly for other people from back in the day. But for my own products, I've launched over 150 products myself.
Oh wow, that's impressive. And then I guess we're gonna learn a lot from you. So what was the so today we're gonna talk about one of the products, right? So what is the product that you're gonna share with us?
It was funny. It was one of my first projects that I did at Helium 10. It was one of the first ones that were I was kind of like responsible for it. It wasn't like doing it for, just consulting with some other company, but I was like, all right, we got to figure this product out. So we did it as a case study. We called it Project X, and the product that we found, there's a couple different brands we launched at the same time. One of them was coffin shelves, like these little shelves shaped like coffin for morbid people, I
Wow.
guess. And then the other one was wooden egg tray. So completely different, like different categories, different brands, different kinds of products. But those are the two that I launched around the same time back in 2019.
In 2019. Okay, interesting. So one is a coffin shelf.
Yep.
And what was the other one? Is a
The other
tray?
one was like a wooden egg tray for like people who just
Wood.
want to be fancy and display their eggs and
Oh,
on
cool.
their counter and some like fancy little tray instead of being in the egg carton.
Nice. So like ho both home products and do you know like can you walk me through like how did you come up with the idea and how did you do any kind of research at the
Yeah.
time?
So both the partner I did this with and we were trying to look at some unconventional means of looking for product opportunities. So that coffin shelf, we actually started on Etsy. We were like I think it was around the time of Dia de los Muertos or Halloween or something like that, around that time of year. And we saw some trending keywords on Etsy and Pinterest that had to do with gothic decor was the keyword that we found. And so we just like started typing that into Pinterest and Etsy and seeing what come up. And then we saw these like coffin shaped shelves that seemed to be doing well on Etsy. And then also a lot of people were posting pictures of a product on Pinterest. And so we looked on Amazon, there was like only one person selling it. And using Helium 10, we could see there was search volume, but then this one person was like 80% of the year, they're just out of stock. They would just go in stock and then it'd be out of stock. So we're like, wow, this looks pretty interesting. Now the egg tray, it was interesting. We found like maybe a little bit more traditional, like, using Helium 10. We're like, hey, show us a keyword that has this amount of search volume or something, but maybe it's got some indications that there's opportunity. And at first glance, I remember it didn't look like there was opportunity because when we typed in like egg tray was the keyword we found, there was everybody's got thousands of reviews and really cheap prices. But what we noticed was they were all plastic egg trays. And then when we took egg tray and put it into like Etsy and Pinterest, again, looking off of Amazon, we noticed that there was a trend where these like rustic decor type products with like these wooden
Mm,
style boho decor kind of like egg
mm,
trays were trending. And so we had this theory. It's like, okay, well, maybe people are buying plastic egg trays on Amazon because that's all there is. And sure, it's a saturated niche, but maybe if we were the only ones that had this fancy wooden one, we could get some traction. So that was our theory going into that. And yeah, both of those products were successful.
Cool. Thank you for walking us through that. That's really insightful. Um, and I was thinking so we can like, because we're tight on time, maybe we can focus on one of these two products,
Mhm.
and let's talk about whichever one you like.
Sure.
Um,
Coffin Shelf is probably the most famous one.
the Coffin Shelf. Okay. So walk me through like finding a supplier for that.
Yeah, so the first thing we did for finding a supplier for the coffin shelf was Alibaba.com. We're like, and since it wasn't really a thing. Now you type in coffin shelf in Alibaba, and there's like a billion factories will show up. Actually, most of them using our pictures and stuff, but there was nothing. So what we did was we were looking just for smaller wooden shelf factories, just regular kinds of shelves, and then we just started contacting a whole bunch from Alibaba and asking them, hey, we would like to work with you, but we've got this unique design for it. Would you be willing to work with us? And so we just started whittling down, who was willing to even work with a custom design. And then we got some samples about the quality. They did mock-ups, based on our drawing of the coffin shelf. And at the end, we just chose which one had the most favorable, minimum order quantity and price for the product. And yeah, rest is history.
Nice. Can you give me an idea, if you remember, how much you spent on samples?
For samples, like we just paid for the shipping. So like I think the shipping like for different ones was, total of maybe 150 bucks maybe.
Okay,
And
but
then the deal that we worked out was, hey, we would actually get that back if we actually placed the order. So at
oh,
the
I
end of the
see.
day, my sample was really free, except
Mm,
except for the ones that we didn't decide to go with. So maybe I was only out like, I don't know, like 75, 80 bucks on shipping. And then the one, the rest of it that came from the one factory that we chose, it just kind of like rolled into the invoice for the actual product.
nice. That's a pretty good deal, and it's good to know that in negotiating terms. What was your first inventory order? How much the quantity and maybe cost, if you'd like to share that?
Yeah, we only ordered, which was one of the reasons why we went with this one, because we were a little bit hesitant because there wasn't a lot of data that showed that this was going to work. We actually validated it first a little bit by ordering some of those that we saw from Etsy and like making a test listing just to like check the demand and stuff
Mm,
like that. So we did have some kind of validation that, hey, this is probably going to work, but at still, I didn't want to go all in. So thankfully we found a supplier that was willing just to do 500. And it
500
was about $3.50 each one.
dollars, 50
Um,
cents.
and then if the landed cost of it, it kind of worked out to about like three in those days, 300 uh dollars per cubic meter. So you can use like one of our calculators to see how much it was, but the landed cost, the price was only about another like $3, $4, $5 of shipping all the way to Amazon. Now, me personally, I actually happen to have my own warehouse at my house from a previous business I had. As one of the reasons I live kind of like in the rural area here. So I actually shipped everything first to my house, and I shipped from my house to Amazon just the initial inventory. It's like 200 units out of that 500. But yeah, total all in price, to Amazon was like only like $8 or $9. And yeah,
Eight or
we sold out pretty fast of these products.
nice. So $8, $9 per unit. And how much you were selling it for on Amazon?
In the early days, we were selling it for $34. Because we had
$34.
no competition. We were the one I said that used to be in stock. They weren't in stock. So anybody
Did-
searching coffin shelf was buying ours only.
Nice. And do you remember how much Amazon was charging you in FBA fees?
Well, total, I just remember, like looking at the first month, if you count
No,
our
per
PPC,
unit.
like
Do you remember per unit how much they were charging you?
per unit, I don't remember, but I mean, obviously it was 15%,
Mm.
and then plus the FBA fee, which was probably around like $7 or so. But when you factored in our PPC, I've got the numbers in front of me of what we did during. It was only a partial month of sales in November of 2019 when we launched,
Mm.
and we had sold about $5,300 worth of the product, and then my expenses on the cost of goods sold and my advertising and everything was 4,300. So we actually did $1,000 of profit in the first month, which is, I'm
That's
keep it real
amazing.
with you guys. That's not normal. Like when I launch now, I aim to lose money. You almost always lose money in your first month. You have to, like, you got to get your initial traction out there, unless you're like an established seller and you got a lot of brand following. But we just like hit it at a really right time. It was like in
Mhm.
November where we launched, where some people might say, hey, don't launch during like Q4 or something. But we were the only coffin shelf in town. And that's why we were able to ask for such a high price and have such high profit margins, even with the increased advertising that we were having to do to try and get some traction.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's definitely a home run when it comes to like being profitable in the first month with PPC and all of that. Did you use PPC in the first month you said? I didn't
From day one, yeah,
from day
day one
one.
we had PPC going.
And let me ask you, did you do any like influencer marketing or any
Zero.
zero? Is this
Yeah.
just
So like,
strictly on Amazon?
if I was if I was trying to make Amazon my full-time business, I would have done a lot more. Like my day job, I work for a software company. This was kind of like a side project, so I can only, set so much time. But even without doing all those other things that would have helped me, I was still able to have that kind of success. So I mean, my sales probably could have even been more if I was doing influencer marketing and other things like that.
And yeah, that's a really good point. And I feel like a lot of especially beginner sellers and you don't get to experience the whole benefits of marketing and branding and reaching out to influencers because there's so much to be learning
Yep.
and you're kind of like trying to focus on finding the product, finding the supplier, learning how to ship and package and learning how to use the Amazon platform and you're focused on so many things. So we do miss out on more opportunity by advertising and influencer marketing.
Yep.
And did you create like an LLC for that product
Yes,
or
we did.
you
Yeah. So
did?
like we had a separate LLC for it. It was for both brands. Like we did two different brands, but you don't have to create an LLC for every single brand. You had,
Right.
it's like this per Seller Central account. So to open we opened up a brand new Seller Central account, had an LLC, and went to work.
And you would say that it costs you $250 to start an LLC approximately.
I don't remember exactly that. That sounds about right. Of course, there's different
That's like
ways
the
of doing
average.
it, but
Yeah.
yeah, that sounds about right.
What about like barcodes? Did you have one FNSQ for or UPC for the coffin, or did you have a variety?
We had three variations in the beginning of colors. Actually, we had
Okay.
more. Like I started out with like five or six, just to like trying to test. Like I knew I was going to do the black coffin shelf, but I'll say let me test like just like maybe 20 each of some random colors. So we actually started with like five different colors, and then we whittled it down to three. But yeah, each and every one of those, we purchased a
A diff
GS1 barcode. Now, me personally, I know things have changed a little bit, but it was cheaper for me to purchase the GS1 barcodes from GS1 UK,
Mm,
because I was launching another brand at the same time on a different accounts, and you could still have it all under one GS1 account. But whatever it was at the time to get it from GS1 USA, it was like coming out to double what it was buying the barcodes from GS1 UK. But that's the key, is it has to be from GS1. A lot of people run into issues where they buy barcodes from eBay or something like that, or just some
right.
unauthorized seller, and then Amazon could like shut you down if you don't have
Big mistake. Yeah.
a real GS1 barcode.
Yeah. And another thing is you obviously I'm guessing you applied for a trademark so you can qualify for a brand
Yep,
registry.
yep. Both brands, especially the Coffin Shelf, we had our brand name. It was funny. The founder of Helium 10, his name is Manny Coates, and so we named this spooky brand Manny's Mysterious Oddities, and so that's what that was what the trademark that we did in the store, what the store is under.
That's pretty funny. And how much did it cost you to like get the photos and the design and all of that for packaging
Now,
initially?
at the time, we actually had a side business where we did photography. So we were able to do it all in-house. Now, since then, I've done
Mm,
other projects, and depending on, if you're using 3D, or how many, if you're trying to do videos, I personally use a company that is like, like I don't get any profit from them or anything like that, but I've worked with them a lot, is AMZ One Step. They're based out of Canada,
mm,
and they've got a photo studio in China. So for example, later on, that same Manny's Mysterious Oddities brand, I launched like these coffin bookshelves, like larger versions of it. And then what's cool was instead of waiting for it to come here and then sending mine, my product to like some photography studio, it went directly from my factory right there in China to their studios over there. And they have like Western looking models and stuff, that they could shoot. And I think it was about like, might have been around $1,000 maybe for that photo shoot, using it over there. And then I was able to get like my A+ images and I even got a sponsored brand video ad out of it, and plus my main image deck, which had infographics. But I mean, obviously, there's no one price fits all. But in my experience, working with them, different projects cost me in that $1,000 range about.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I know we're running short on time, but maybe we can go through. Can you walk me through like the first few months? Do you have those numbers ready? Like, can you walk me through the first few months of launching this product and how did it do?
Yeah, so we ran out of stock after the second month, which was
Mm,
December of 2019, of
wow.
selling it. And in that month, we sold $8,500 worth. And if you factor in all the cost of goods sold with the shipping and PPC and everything, expenses was $6,700. So we had $1,800 of profit in that second month. Now, our
Nice.
first full year of selling was 2020 because we launched in November of
2019.
2019, and then that was a mistake. I made like it was hard to kind of gauge what the sales were going to be, because this was a new niche, right? And there wasn't that much data to look at. But in our first full year of sales for the two brands, the Coffin Shelf one, which was like I would say about 70 to 80% of our sales, we did $200,000, and our profit was $48,000 in that year, and when we sold over 7,000 units. So there's 5,000 houses in 2020 had a spooky looking haunted coffin shelf on their mantle or something. It's kind of like boggles your mind when you think about it. But yeah, I was happy that there are weirdos in America who buy these kind of things, because we made a lot of money off of that.
And could you leave me with three mistakes that you did that other sellers can learn from?
Sure. One of them was what I just said. We kept running out of stock, like, so I,
Mm,
I was a little bit too conservative. I didn't give enough leeway for, like, shipping issues that might come up, and that's just like lost money,
yeah.
let alone the fact that you always run the risk of losing your keyword rank and things like that,
Yeah.
if you're out of stock for too long. So that was number one. Number two is it's so ridiculous since I work for Helium 10. But Helium 10 has this tool called alerts where it like lets you know if something weird happens to your listing, like maybe somebody changes your images. The most critical one, in my opinion, that it does is it lets you know if Amazon changes the dimensions on your product, which
Mm,
sometimes it just randomly does. Like some random employee in some warehouse is like, no, this is not 10 inches long, it's 11 inches long. And it'll just change. You don't get notification of that or anything. But the thing is, I had that alert on in Helium 10 and I got the alert. For whatever reason, I never paid attention to it. It's too busy or whatever. And one day I was doing auditing, like I remember in 2021, and I noticed that I was like, man, my profitability seems a little bit less. Like this
mm,
doesn't seem right. I looked. What happened was in like September of 2020, Amazon changed my dimensions, and it was a huge. Even though it was like 2 inches, it wasn't even like that big of a thing. Like 1 inch on one side, 1 inch on another. It was a difference of $1.50 per
wow.
unit in
Wow.
fulfillment, just because I was like one of those borders. And so, if you think about it, selling hundreds and hundreds of units, this cost me thousands of dollars. It was something like
Wow.
I calculated out like about $4,000 extra I paid over 5 months.
Wow.
Now, I immediately reported to Amazon and, hey, you guys messed up. And they're like, yep, we did. We'll reimburse you. But you can only get, in those days, at least, I don't know what it is now, you can only get reimbursed for like 3 months. So I got like maybe $3,000 back. But still, that was a $2,000 mistake
Wow.
I made because I wasn't paying attention to my dimensions. And that was like a free tool I even had from Helium 10. And I show people how to use it. And I wasn't even using it right myself. And then the other issue we had was I didn't do a good enough job in my initial images to portray the size. It seemed like I thought I did a fine job. Like I even have an image that shows 12 inches, here and 9 inches wide. Actually, it was 14 inches tall. 9 inches wide is like how more clear can you get? But what I didn't have was literally this: somebody standing there, or like a human being with it in their hand to give the perspective. Because we had a lot of returns when I looked at the numbers, and the comments was, oh, it's and the reviews too was, oh, it's smaller than I thought. So never
I see.
underestimate the ignorance of Amazon customers. It doesn't matter that you literally have an image that has the dimensions and things. Yeah, it's kind of understandable. Like somebody says 12 inch, like, do you really know exactly how tall or whatever 12 inches is? It might be harder. So always try and have images that show like a human being or something else for context of size.
Mm.
That'll help you with your returns.
That's a really good point. Yeah, and that affects your conversion rate,
Yep.
definitely. Well, thank you. I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you for joining me today. I mean, there's a lot of valuable information was given out. I appreciate it, and I look forward to, meeting with you another time.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot for inviting
Thank
me.
you.